Hi, welcome to our channel, and here we review movies, TV series, just as average day viewers, and our channel is called The Film Cove, and today we are reviewing Andor.
Yeah, we're two lovers who love film and want to share our opinion on it and just give you a genuine audience review and unbiased review.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So we started with Andor because it's I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and I feel like it's a good show to start with. There's been a lot of hype about it, and the trailer seemed really cool. They had really good music into it. It seemed very tense,
Very
spy.
action-packed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very dark. I was like, ooh, this is
Drawing you
cool.
in.
It's during the Empire time, so it's like, oh, there's so many people that could show up during it.
Yeah.
Like all of our
New
favorite
characters,
characters.
maybe
Yeah.
old. Yep.
The Senate looked very cool. I was always interested in the prequels with how Palpatine had kind of manipulated his way into power, so I was like, cool to see that. And then kind of some backstory on Saw Gerrera would have been cool. And then we got to episode 1, and
So we're kind of reviewing this as the 3 episodes that came out
Yeah.
at first, and we'll kind of casually break down episode 1, 2, and 3, and then go over it as a whole.
Yep. And then what I did is I kind of created a grading scale. So I'm just trying to tie a metric or a measurable to our opinion on how the movie is. So there's basically 6 different sections: plot, acting and dialogue, cinematography, theme, the sound and the music, which is really important. Then I added this 6th element for Star Wars, just because it is a Star Wars show and I want it to have that Star Wars factor. So I added that in just for this show, and probably any Star Wars show that we review in the future.
Just because there's different types of Star Wars fans too.
Yeah, and each one of these 6 different sections, I guess you could call it, is going to have a scale basically from 1 to 10.
Yep.
I'll try and keep it as least technical as I can, but I just like to for me, I'm a numbers guy, so I like to compare numbers to actual opinion. But we'll just go through at first and just episode by episode and say kind of what we liked, what we didn't like, some of the stuff we had hoped to see and whatnot. So okay,
so let's just jump right in
to
episode 1. So what were your thoughts on it?
So the first 5 minutes, I had seen a lot of stuff come out, and people were like, oh, it's kind of got a Blade Runner vibe. I'm like, oh, that's cool. It's something different to Star Wars. The first 5 minutes were super intense. I mean, spoiler alert, he basically kills these 2 guys, and you're like, what the heck happened?
The main character kills.
He's looking for his sister in this titty bar, and then these guys kind of jerks to him and try and shake him up on the alley, and then he has to defend himself. So you're like, oh my gosh, that's cool. And then you can see throughout the show, he's morally questioning if he did the right thing. That was kind of a cool theme. I was like, okay,
there's this big internal conflict that you can feel while you're watching it.
Yeah. I liked all the colors and the special effects. I like the grunginess of it because it is kind of a dark time with the Empire. The actors, I will say one thing about this show: the actors are all really good. I mean, compared to Kenobi, man, these actors
they're a lot
really good. Yeah.
And when talking about the grungy stuff you were talking about, it's nice because it's different from all the other Star Wars series that have been released.
Yeah.
Where everything's kind of bright or more for kids, in my opinion. Whereas this was a totally different take of the first 5 minutes, it was an inappropriate bar scene. It was very grungy. I mean,
it's very adult.
Yeah.
And with some of those other shows, you really have to be into Star Wars to kind of appreciate them. Mm-hmm. I've watched all the animated stuff, you haven't.
Yep.
And I really enjoy that stuff, but you kind of have to be into it. So I can understand why they're calling it an adult show. Mm-hmm. So we can dig a little bit more into episode 2. I thought it was a lot like the first the structure of it was a lot like the first episode, the first 5 minutes was super intense. They had something that grabbed you, and then the rest of it was just boring talking, and it's come on, guys, we don't know these characters. You got to keep us entertained in the film, so the first 2 episodes I really kind of graded low on my scale.
They just kind of bled together. It wasn't anything that I can actually think of right now on the spot that really stuck out to me, other than the first 5 minutes of each episode. Otherwise, it's all very kind of similar.
And there was some cool stuff, his backstory of the planet that he came from, and and the whole okay, we're all the adults, it's just all these kids. But even that got drawn out too. It was just they all were standing around that ship just waiting for something to happen. It was just unnecessary minutes. The time's running, and I'm like, this is just,
and then
come on, somebody do something,
Well, and some of it seemed cheesy too, and it was just kind of okay, cheesy, I'm kind of rolling my eyes here. But then you have to realize the planet that they're on, in the situation they're in, it's all little kids. So you have to think,
Yeah.
okay, well, I guess it's not as cheesy as you think, because you would do the same thing with an adolescent brain.
Yeah, I guess you don't really know what's going on.
You don't know what's going on. It's just more so hard to like continue watching something that's not really bringing in your attention. I mean, to be honest, I think we fell asleep episode 2.
Yeah, we couldn't finish these all in one night. I mean, we were stretched.
We were too bored.
Out,
it was.
So,
yeah.
And then episode 3, you know, I don't know if I had too much in my notes, but you know, one thing that struck us is like there was that scene where all those guards are coming down from space into Flex or Ferrix. I don't remember what planet it's called. It's basically that grungy planet that he's on, and they're about to, you know, try and take Andor into custody. And that's like the first time we see space. I'm like, oh my gosh, they need to have more space in this. It's Star Wars.
It's Star Wars. I mean?
That's part of the reason why I didn't feel like that. But then another thing. So one thing I really liked about episode 3 is there was that guard who shot basically Andor's ex-girlfriend, I guess you could call her new boy toy. He had shot him basically for no reason. And then I was like, okay, these guards are like worse than what Andor was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, and that theme of like that nobody is really above the law, really, because I like Westerns. So like that really struck with me. I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. Like I was kind of interested there. I'm like, these guys, like there's no point in them hunting down Andor if they're no better than him, you know? So I felt like episode 3 was a little bit better. There was some more action-packed scenes, like when they were in that, remember they were in that warehouse?
Thing?
And all those things were falling
down.
I was like, oh dang, this is cool. And then he's like trying to get to the box and all those people are shooting at him. You're like, oh. So it was like on the edge of my seat. I like that stuff. And like one thing that Dave Filoni always says about Star Wars is that it's supposed to give you this sense of hope in every single one of the shows. It always gives you a sense of hope. And I felt like the last 5 minutes of the 3rd episode really gave me that, because it kind of connected his past of like his adopted mother taking him in. I would say
the last 20 minutes.
Probably, yeah.
Because how long are the episodes?
Around 40 minutes,
I think the episodes are like 40 minutes. I'd say half of episode 3 was really good, really action-packed. You got that taste of, like you were saying, Star Wars feel, where you saw like the ships come in, a little bit of space. Whereas like before we were saying, you don't have to have like the whole galaxy theme in order for it to feel like Star Wars, but you don't have the original characters. So it doesn't, if you're all on a planet with people you don't know, with music that doesn't feel like Star Wars, it's just kind of, it's not the same. It's not as nostalgic.
It seemed disconnected.
Yeah, disconnected.
Right? Yeah, they didn't. The music is a big part of Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like you
they really missed that.
Yeah, some of these other cinematic trailers, like, and even I mean, Duel of the Fates in Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. That whole scene with Darth Maul. Like, could you imagine watching that without that soundtrack? It would be terrible.
It wouldn't be. It is today.
Yeah,
but it is.
And Obi-Wan kind of was. The music I wasn't a huge fan of either, but
Obi-Wan wasn't that good.
Yeah. So the last 5 minutes really kind of, well, for me, it gave me hope for the future bit, because I liked connecting that, you know, the two parallels between his adopted mother picking him up and then that senator picking him up and being like, all right, you know, I don't even care about the box. I'm just here for you, because I feel like we could, you know, create a rebellion, or you could be helpful to the rebellion. So I was like, okay, this is really cool. So yeah, I mean, I thought the 3rd episode was a lot better than the first 2. And after, so I took up, I as far as my grading scale went, I went through each episode. I rated the plot, the acting, cinematography, theme, sound, and Star Wars factor in every single one of them. And then I averaged up all of that. And it came to about 4.3 or a 4.5 out of 10, which I think is pretty good for the first 3 episodes. Because like I mean,
if you haven't watched it, then it sounds really low. But if you watch it, which I'm assuming you have, because we've just given spoilers. I
mean, the 3rd episode got rated the highest at like a 6.6, almost a 7. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I would definitely, you know, recommend people watching this. It's a
slow start.
Bear down and buckle in.
Yeah.
You know,
you're not going to finish it all in one night. You may doze off or get distracted, but I think the 3rd episode gives hope into the series of, okay, I see the potential of where it's going.
Yeah. So
yeah, I would say the first 2 episodes I'd probably give 3 out of 10.
Yeah.
4 out of 10. I mean, it wasn't that good in my opinion. And then the 3rd episode, I'd say 6.5. That's pretty fair.
That's where it picks up. I mean, I think if they continue to give these little, like, you know, if they bring Saw Gerrera in there and they bring the Senate in there and they, you know, have kind of more of that Star Wars like lore and feel, then it's going to get more people interested. There was no like mysticism. It was all, it seemed like they were just like, okay, I kind of understand why they released all three of them at once now, because there's nothing really important that happens. So
well, and then we were talking too. We were only in the second episode, and I said, I don't know if I want to finish this series.
Yeah,
it's just it's not paying my, it's not like grabbing my attention. I'm feeling so unproductive. There's so many things we could do other than like force ourselves to watch this, just because we are big Star Wars fans. But then he made a good point. They released 3 of them at the same time for a reason, and I'm glad we did watch them. It just, I think there's hope for that.
I don't want people to think that we're like action junkies where we need action every second.
No,
I definitely like intricate stuff.
I like getting to know the characters, the history,
but it has to like have theme, get you involved in it and stuff. And I have high hopes for this show, like improving over time.
Well, like for Book of Boba Fett. I mean, I mean, that wasn't the best. I think it's better than Obi-Wan in my opinion, but I love that you got to know the backstory of Boba Fett, where it was so cool. You see the desert of him surrounded by those other Tusken warriors and getting to know why he is the way he is and like what happened. Like that, I love. That wasn't super action packed. That was something more getting to know the character. It's just more so with Andor, in my opinion, it was the same thing. Like I said before, you just find out that he's a troublemaker, but you don't get to know why. You don't get to know where he really came from until, I mean, episode 3.
So we're gonna go through now with every episode until it's done, and then once it's done, we'll probably give it a final
review of all of them.
So thank you all for watching and making it to the end. And we'll catch you next week when episode 4 is released, and hopefully within the next couple days we can make a video and review it.